We will seek a UN investigation if need be. The Turkish president determined to find out who ordered Jamal Khashoggi's murder, and angry at comments from the main suspect, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. But will Turkey get international support, and can the UN make any difference? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Richelle, Carey. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is not giving up. He wants more answers about the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, and he will push for an international investigation if necessary. Erdogan's furious at what he called Mohammed bin Salman's unbelievable explanation of what happened, and that the Crown Prince said Saudi Arabia could not be blamed unless the crime was proven. The CIA reportedly believes bin Salman is responsible, and so do many U.S. politicians, but not President Donald Trump. Here's what Erdogan told the G20 summit in Argentina.
The Saudi regime first denied it and then tried to distort facts and finally admitted to this murder. Turkey has adopted a very determined attitude which has helped us close this issue. We have never seen this as a political issue and shall never do so. For us, this incident was a horrendous act of murder and shall remain so.
Let's bring in our guest now in Istanbul, Vehbi Baysan, professor of history at Ibn Haldun University in Sulaimani, Barin, Kayaoglu, assistant professor of world history at the American University of Iraq, Sulaimani, and in London, Saad, Djebbar, international lawyer and political commentator. Welcome to the program. Thank you all for joining us. Vehbi, I'm going to start with you. What do you think, going back to the beginning, the goal of Erdogan has been?
Well, actually, it seems he's quite persistent on this issue and actually followed the same policy from day one. And as you also quoted at the beginning, on his way to Paraguay after G20 summit in Argentina, he was chatting with the journalists, and he said that actually we are getting enough is enough, because he complained bitterly that the Saudis are not really cooperating and not really supporting or rather presenting supporting evidence, anything, no cooperation. And he says if necessary, we would like to take it to another level, the UN investigation, and also involve some international organizations. But here he's actually distinguishing between the Saudi-Turkey relations in terms of defense, maybe economy, etc., and this case. So he made it clear in his talk, but also he's saying that, since the Saudis admitted that the Khashoggi was killed in the consulate, then where is the body? If you're talking about you had a local operative or I don't know, someone, a Turk, then did something with the body, we would like to know, because so far there is not really satisfactory information from the Saudi side, and that's why it's getting quite frustrating, because Turkey wants to close this file and move on, but as long as the body is not around and we don't really know a lot of the other details, it makes the case quite sensitive, quite bitter, but also the carefully crafted policy. Turkey really does not intend to harm Turkey-Saudi relations. This is just keeping it separately in this case.
Okay, so Saad, about that point, what do you think Erdogan's goal has been, and how would you say that he has managed this so far?
I think Erdogan so far has managed the case very well in terms of keeping it in the headlines, in keeping the pressure on, because the Saudis and their friends believed that matter was transient and it would go away in a few days, like in many issues. So the Turkish approach was very successful in terms of being very quiet and reserved. But meanwhile, they were very effective in keeping the matter alive and on the agenda of the international community and the press. And as far as the form which this case should be really adjudicated, it should not be Saudi Arabia. It can't be Turkey, because Saudi Arabia will never, ever cooperate and surrender those people, considering that they are part and parcel of the inner circle of Mohammed bin Salman, the crown prince. And it's impossible for any inquiry not to find that there was a link between the perpetrators of this horrendous crime, who used the means of state, who used all the means available to a state in order to commit this crime. It couldn't have happened without the knowledge and the order of the supreme leader in that country, namely the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Barin, often in investigations, the public doesn't know everything that the investigators know. They tend to hold something close to the vest. And you would think that that would be the case with Turkey as well, but it seems from the way Erdogan is speaking publicly that they have hit some sort of brick wall and that there are still a lot of things they just don't know.
That is true. One point to bear in mind is that the Turkish prosecutor has not concluded, the Turkish prosecutor's office has not concluded its investigation either. And another point to bear in mind is that while Turkey has been criticized immensely over these so-called drip strategy, or these strategic drips to local as well as international media, this approach ended up basically getting the Saudi government to admit that its operatives, allegedly rogue, had murdered Jamal Khashoggi. And until Saudi Arabia really does try to come clean forward with this, I'm not sure if these leaks will, in the short to medium term, really stop. And once there is some sort of reckoning over this, over the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, then we will know, if not all of the facts of the matter, then at least a good bit of it.
Saad, whose responsibility is it to find Jamal Khashoggi's body? We don't even know where the body is.
Well, Saudi Arabia admitted that the body was assigned to a local agent. That would make it irrevocably, it will fall within the competence of the Turkish law and judiciary. In other words, the Saudis have committed a crime inside the consulate, which was against international law, against the Vienna Convention, against criminal international law. And again, they took a part of the crime, because there were a series of crimes. There was the abduction somehow of Khashoggi, his seizure, his killing. There were a series of crimes. And a further crime was to have taken the body illegally and assigned it to someone else in the territory of Turkey. Therefore, that gives jurisdiction in every aspect of the case to Turkey. That's why I said, considering practical and political considerations, it's the best way forward is to take the matter out of the hands of the Saudis and the Turks and assign it to an international investigation and international tribunal. Of course, the Turks, I'm sure they will cooperate with that investigation. Would the Saudis do? And there are other precedents in international law, because a mixed tribunal could be set up, which will consist of international judges with the help of the Saudis and the Turks and other states if they have information, because it's impossible that GCHQ, which spies on communications all over the world, they might have some evidence, and other countries might have evidence to present to an international investigation and a tribunal. There is no alternative to an international independent inquiry and an international independent tribunal, as long as Saudis will not cooperate.
Understood.
They will
Just
always be assumed that they were culprit.
Understood. Let me bring Vehbi into the conversation, the professor of history here. Is there a precedent for something like this being investigated on an international level? And I realize this is a rare case.
Well, extremely. I mean, so far as Turkey concerned, I cannot recall anything like this. Anything. I mean, there's an important part here. One is that yes, it took place in Saudi consulate, and it is considered, kind of place belongs to Saudi Arabia, but the Vienna Convention actually, if there's a crime committed in that place, local authorities have the right to involve. I mean, it's their job to involve, rather. But there is another case, Rafik Hariri case. There's an international tribunal for his assassination as well, and they worked months and months, and what happened after that was inconclusive. That's why in Turkey, the public has this opinion that this case may well be like inconclusive in the end of the day. So, I mean, so far as Turkey is concerned, I don't think anything like this ever happened. Probably not even Europe or the US, and I don't know other parts. But because another question, of course, we're asking here is that why did this happen? Like Istanbul is chosen, and when he submitted his papers, they told him to come 4 days later to collect them because he wanted to get married here. And so it was all planned. And a day before, a team of 18 people arrived in Istanbul, etc. You know the details.
Yes.
But then why did they choose Istanbul while this person is living in other parts of,
Sure.
like US, etc.?
Sure.
So it's a biggest question for us.
Okay, Saad, you're the international lawyer. When we talk about an international, I'm sorry, Barin, pardon me, Barin. When we talk about this, some sort of international investigation, what body would that be?
The previous commentator, Professor Vehbi from Istanbul, mentioned the case of Rafik Hariri. The original Hariri investigation, and actually let me take a step back and remind the audience that in February 2005, former Prime Minister of Lebanon, Rafik Hariri, was killed in a car bomb attack in downtown Beirut. And as a result, then UN Secretary General Kofi Annan had asked for an investigation by an Irish police commissioner. I believe his name was Fitzgerald. And as a result of that, later in the 2000s, I believe in 07 or 09, an international tribunal was formed under the aegis and under a UN Security Council resolution. So while I'm mostly an historian, by the way, I believe the other gentleman is an international lawyer. I know a little bit of it. It was based on a UN Security Council resolution mandate on which the Rafik Hariri Tribunal was formed.
Okay, so having said that, would that same body have jurisdiction over something like this?
Well, if it's a matter related to international peace, the UN Security Council has all the power in the world. Our big problem is, of course, whether the different powers of the Security Council will agree to the modalities, the parameters of an investigation like this, and what if anything, Saudi Arabia would have to do as a result of the investigation. And I would assume that to the extent that there might be certain repercussions for Saudi Arabia, that can only be those can only be decided once this sort of an international investigation is concluded. There's no point in conducting an international investigation in the first place if we are already going to start by punishing countries. And I do think that, and I'm saying that as someone who really thinks that Saudi Arabia has a lot to come out clean with that, but they can't be punished unless the findings, the facts are found out.
Saad, let's talk about the role that the U.S. has played in this. There are mixed messages coming out of the U.S. It's clear that Donald Trump has basically said it may or may not have happened, but there are a lot of politicians that have been very forceful about pushing for answers. They want the CIA director to brief them. What role does the U.S. play on the international stage in pushing to get real answers? Do they set the tone for everybody else?
Firstly, one primary remark. Al-Hariri, we know he was assassinated, but we did not know who assassinated him. In the case of Khashoggi, we know who killed him, who assassinated him. What we don't know is who ordered the assassination. So this is one difference. Secondly, in the United States, the enlightened people in the United States, they haven't agreed, or the deep state and the public, they don't agree with President Trump, because President Trump said he might have done it, but he might not have done it. He cannot really set up himself as judge and jury. He's a president of the United States, but we know his bias. He hates the press. We know his bias family-wise. He benefits from Saudi Arabia and the Emirates. We know that's why the public and the world at large expect the President of the United States to act as a head of state, not as a businessman or as a person who hates the press. We know it in the United States. Therefore, it is the right of the international community to find means and ways to bring the perpetrators, who are Saudis. They are known by name, and the Saudis admitted they have committed that crime. So an international inquiry either could be set up through the Security Council, where a resolution could be vetoed by the Putin or Trump, because Putin has committed, or his people committed the crime, or suspect to have committed the crime, but through nuclear means here against an ex-Russian agent. So there is that sympathy with the Saudis, because the Saudi prince or Saudi Arabia has committed this crime in a more horrendous way, in a more primitive way, whereas the Russian guy, he did it in very sophisticated. So in the United States, remember that some of the sons or children of Khashoggi are American citizens. They could bring, first of all, a civil action before the American courts, where Trump cannot stop. And therefore, it could easily be maybe found that the sons or daughters of Khashoggi, who are Americans, could benefit from hundreds of millions rather than what the Saudis are suggesting to them.
Okay, Saad, I want to bring Barin into the conversation. I think that's a great point, and I don't think I've heard that avenue yet. The possible avenue of Khashoggi's children pursuing a civil route. What do you think of that?
With all respect to Mr. Assad, I'm not sure if that would actually have much of an effect on Saudi Arabia. A couple of years ago, I believe it was in the sunset years of the Obama administration, Congress did pass a law that would hold Saudi Arabia accountable for the deaths of the attacks of 9/11, 2001. And while that may hold in an American court of law, in the case of Khashoggi, I believe that while there might be a conviction, and the Saudi Arabian government in a civil case could be held, could be charged, and could be convicted, Saudi Arabia will simply not recognize the jurisdiction of an American court over a case that involves a Saudi citizen, the death of a Saudi, and the death and disappearance of the body of a Saudi citizen in Turkey. As I said, I'm not the jurist here, so they literally don't take me to court with it. But from a political point of view, as a political historian, I'm not sure if that's the right. It would be important. Don't get me wrong. It would be important for the Khashoggi family, for Khashoggi survivors, to have some sort of closure in an American court of law. But I'm not sure if that's what's going to move the ball forward, if you will, on this case.
Vehbi,
no, it is important, because if a court of law in the United States looks at that case, one of the things the lawyers will seek discovery. In other words, they will ask for official documents from the Saudis.
Sure, yes.
They will put enough pressure in order to keep the case alive in terms of the civil aspects of it, and you might unearth more information. And if Saudis refuse to give it, that will put more pressure on them, and it will show that the highest echelons of the Saudi leadership were involved in the order. As I've said, we know who killed Khashoggi, but we don't know. We want to know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Saad, let me bring Vehbi back into this conversation. If it's not the U.S. that gets behind some sort of investigation, are there any other any other countries, any other players, any other leaders that could band together and have equal pull, equal weight to push this someplace? Or will it always come down to the fact that the U.S. could squash it if they want to?
Well, it is obvious because, when was it? The last week or 10 days ago, Trump made a written announcement about the CIA report. He's saying that we will never was in italics, stressing it, we will never know what had happened, etc. So, but this wasn't just a simple statement. This was just basically telling people to, drop it out. So we may have U.S. backing if this issue has been taken by the opposition in the U.S. to Congress or any other legal body. Then there might be a support. But then I think G20 is also demonstrated some different ideas, different opinions about this, one of which Prince, in front of cameras, showed how friendly he is with Putin, and then later emerged that actually they made a big deal, $2 billion, etc. I don't know if it's true. And then his really friendly chat with Macron, etc. So I don't know how much support this case would get from Europe. Because now, if you notice, we are everything trying to link the prince with the case. But actually, those who arrived in Istanbul and committed this crime already under investigation, and some of them probably in prison. We don't know details. But so we have to distinguish between whether, to get down the prince through using this case is really a matter of international opinion. You need this U.S. backing on that. UN Security Council will not do any decision without U.S. support, because any decline there, any refusal will drop the case. So it's very difficult, more difficult than Rafik Hariri case. I know that. But at the same time, there is a crime. All we know, by the way, officially is that this person, Khashoggi, entered the consulate in Istanbul and never came out. And then days later or weeks later, Saudis admitted that he was killed. So anything in between, we don't have much details. There are a lot of details, I know, in the international media, saying they base their news on Turkish officials, but we don't know who they are. We don't have the prosecutors' report yet. So official announcement, any sort of.
Saad, let me ask you about that point that Vehbi just brought up. Do you think that the way he was received at the G20, the fact that he just basically went about business as usual, I'm talking about Mohammed bin Salman, do you think that that is indicative of what will actually end up happening, that Saudi can just keep pushing forward as if nothing happened and just they're going to hope that at some point it'll just fade away?
Well, in international diplomacy, usually governments don't like to be nasty to each other. But whatever niceties you saw at that G20, there was really a very cold reception by those heads of state. But remember, the European Parliament have crystallized really a firm position. They kept calling for an international investigation, an independent investigation, a global one, and also an international trial. So the issue will not go away. That is, as long as the international community keeps a firm stand. And I have some hope that in the United States itself, the Congress will keep digging and wanting to know the truth, because Trump wanted to defy his own official agencies, the CIA, before that, the FBI, and now this investigation, and he's defying the world. But Trump is facing problems himself regarding the Mueller investigation. So the man is really on the receiving end, and we're moving from one crisis to another. He cannot. I don't think that the Khashoggi case will go away. It will be there forever.
Okay.
And it will remind the international community that the Saudis have violated human rights for so long, for decades, without any punishment.
Okay.
The time has come that the Saudis will be held into account.
That will be the final word,
and they have to act
Saad.
like a normal entity, or otherwise you will face the wrath of the
Thank you,
international
Saad. That will
community.
have to be the final word. We are out of time, gentlemen. Thank you all very much. Vehbi, Baysan, Barin, Kayaoglu, and Saad Djebbar. Thank you. And thank you for watching as well. You can see the program again anytime by visiting our website at aljazeera.com. For further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. From me, Richelle, Carey, and the entire team. Bye for now.